Okay, we will continue now with the Brazilian group, research group presentation. Unfortunately, Priscila will not be here with us. She had a problem that she told us now in the morning. So we will continue with Wagner Ishibashi. He's from São Paulo, Brazil. He had his master's degree from the University of São Paulo, and he will speak about role-playing, imagination, and cultural historical theory. The floor is yours, Wagner.
Thank you very much. I will put my presentation on the screen, just a minute. Okay. I will not do it full screen so I can see and control everything properly. So, as Carla said, my name is Wagner Luiz Schmidt Shibashi. I am a doctorate student at the State University of São Paulo here in Brazil. And I am part of the research group Vershina. I hope I pronounced that right because, sorry, Russian. And Priscilla would know how to pronounce that correctly. And my talk will be about imagination, creativity, and tabletop role-playing games. And I will try to talk a little bit about the problem of giftedness in those games. So first, I have to alert that maybe some lost in translation problems may occur, as pointed already by Zoya Prestes. We have lots of problems with translations. English is not my first language. I don't read Russian, so I read works on Portuguese, English, and Spanish. So maybe some things will be a little bit funky. So usually when we talk about imagination and creativity related to games, most of research, more than 90% of the research, is about the early childhood age, like the works on play words, this very interesting concept by Lindqvist. On the other side, we have some studies on play, like theater play, like the concept of performance by Luz Holzman, that she picked it up from improv play and theater play, and so on. But I try to go as much as I can directly back to Vygotsky, since he has some very interesting works on play and imagination and so on. And what is more interesting, Vygotsky does not talk about imagination and play only for early childhood. He has material on the adolescence also. So I will be very quick here. Since you already know Vygotsky's theory, imagination and creativity are new formations that happens on early childhood. What this means? That some elementary psychological functions like reproductive memory and the senses, and some higher psychological functions like voluntary memory, thinking, speech, the relationship between these functions from social relations, they reorganize themselves in a new way, in a new form, a new formation, a new form of this psychological system. So I am trying to see the time here, but sorry, I cannot see the time, but I will continue, try to be as quick as possible.
You have time, no problem, Wagner. Okay. I will conduct you here.
Thank you. So not on his text on imagination and creativity, but on his text on play and development, Vygotsky made some interesting appointments to the study of games and study of play. So he says that in early childhood, pretend play, we can see very clearly the imaginary situation, but the rules are concealed. Like, there are rules. If you ask the children in a game, for example, you are pretending to be a cooker, and you do something that, like, for example, get out flying, maybe the kid will say, no, you cannot do this. When we ask them why, they will come up with some explanation. They will not be very clear, but this will come from the concrete situation. Afterwards, in the school age, the reverse happens. So we have games and sports, sorry for this misspelling on the presentation, like chess and soccer, where the rules are very clear, but the imaginary situation is there, but it's concealed. Chess is a game of war. It's not just a battle, because you have not only the soldiers, but you have the structures like the towers, and you have politics, and incarnated by the queen and the king and the bishop. And soccer, for example, we can see that like a battle between two tribes. So the imaginary situation is there, but in this, the imaginary situation is concealed. What is very interesting is that at the adolescent age, imagination and creativity, they reach a new level. New level here, I don't know how to translate this into English. We created a new word for this in Portuguese, but comes from the dialectical Hegelian sense of Aufheben. So negation of negation, sublimation. So a new level. And this happens because the adolescence is in new social relations promoted by puberty, by changes in the school, maybe he's already working, and this promotes the deep development of abstract reasoning and of emotions, and this is expressed in forms like poems, music, daydreaming, even if we just lock them in our drawer to nobody else to see. And what is interesting is that in the adolescence age, both the imaginary situation and the rules are clear. Okay, so Vygotsky also points out a little bit about this in other two works that maybe have the prototype for the theory of emotions from him. The problem of creative work of the actor, that is a play problem, how the actor plays the emotions of his characters, and the actor is not in the early childhood. And later he comes up with this concept of perigivane, in Portuguese vivência, that has no good translation in English, emotional experience, lived experience, so on. So, about giftedness, Vygotsky also already give very good hints for us in the work of the Foundations of Pedagogy that we have in Portuguese, thanks to Zoya Prestes, thank you a lot. So, in this work, he says that a gifted kid is not the one that develops a function way ahead of his age, but is a kid that develops a function in a very deeper way, a function that is proper for his age, for his development, but in a deeper way. And we can see by the previous talks, and for example, some TikTok trends about gifted kid burnouts and gifted kids, but average adults. that if we do not manage this properly, and this can lead to development problems. So if the gifted child maybe do not have the tools necessary, for example, for university or for graduate studies like master's degree and so on, because they do not have to face the problems of studying in the school. So going very quickly here, I will come to this later. So tabletop role-playing games, I will be very quick here also. So basically, these are games, pretend play games, but they have very clear rules. Short story, they can buy a mixture of chess and role play that came from educational role play inspired by Moreno. And this mixture of miniature war games and role play produce the commercial product role-playing games like Dungeons and Dragons, and in which people get around the table, that's why tabletop, and one person describes the imaginary situation and the other play the characters in this imaginary situation. Sometimes this is not around the table. People can dress up as their characters, and we call this LARP, live action role-playing games, that I heard are very popular on Russia also. So TRPG demands high imagination, right? High creativity, but it's only possible after the adolescent age because it needs a high abstract reasoning because of its rules, its complex rules. So usually you can have like interactive storytelling before this, but a full-blown tabletop role-playing game, in my experience, over 10 years of experience, only after 12, 13, so on. So my research, very quickly. We have this idea of immersion that in a game or in a sport, there is, it's like the person is inside the game, inside his job. And this is an intense cognitive and emotional investment. And in some role-playing games, there is a perigivani, a form of perigivani, a form of vivencia that we are calling bleed. This is kind of a dialectics between player and character. And for example, a player was crying because one of the non-characters, one of the characters of the story not played by the players died. And this had a deep impact. And the reverse can occur. For example, two players, they had a fight, their characters are friends, but their characters do not get along anymore because of this out of the game situation. So bleed is now the unit of analysis of my current research. So wrapping up, maybe we have time for some questions. Since the 80s, tabletop role-playing games are used on gifted classes on the United States and Europe. But what is interesting is that, for example, here in my city, Londrina, in Brazil, where I do my master's, we have a part of the Department of Education called NAS that they attend to gifted children. And we also have a department for children with disabilities. And what was common was that they did not know where to put some children because they were gifted on one aspect, but they have disabilities in others. For a clear example of this is are kids with Asperger syndrome disorder. So And they love to play role-playing games because it is a structure, it has clear rules, but where to put them? And if we go back to Vygotsky, we would put them in the disabilities class because their social abilities have very big problems. And what is interesting is that there is a very good research from Kohei Kato in Japan. This is a small drawing of his material. He used tabletop role-playing games because it's a very structured social relationship. He used this to promote the development of social skills with teenagers with autism syndrome disorder, high functional autism spectrum disorder. And this is a photo of a cafe in Japan, tabletop and board game in Japan, where many times Kohei Kato applied his research. I am trying to combine this in order to try to use this game not only to promote cognitive abilities that is already very clear in the literature and social skills that is beginning to be developed in the literature, but also emotional skills. And I have that this game can help us to work not only with disabled children, but also with gifted children, and also help us to prepare intervention programs in a more clear way to help these kids to have a very good quality of life and a very good development. Thank you very much. I hope I did not got over my time. Sorry.